You're free to go.
If God knows people like you to exist, He will forgive me this sin.
Don't do this to me. I'm your father.
Brothers, do we die?
By sundown, a town square in Tyrol is begging for blood. A prisoner kneels before a crowd that has already decided he is a monster. Behind him stands the man ordered to kill him, Martin, a decorated imperial captain turned executioner. Martin knows the prisoner is innocent. He also knows that if his sword does not fall, the people who framed this man will come for his wife, his little boy, and perhaps the last friend he has left. In this town, truth is not what happened. Truth is whatever survives the sermon, the torture chamber, and the scaffold. This is the Headsman. The story begins years earlier, beneath that same scaffold. Martin and Georg are orphan boys raised by monks in a Tyrolean monastery.
Martin! Georg!
After stealing apples, they were chased through the marketplace and hid together under the scaffold.
Look, the executioner. How many people do you think he's killed? Look at the sword. How big?
When the condemned man dies, the boys make a promise, brothers until death. It is an innocent promise, which makes what follows hurt more. The archbishop visits the monastery and selects Georg for his private care.
Please. It's time. It's time to go.
Georg is given books, discipline, and a future inside the church. Martin is left behind and eventually sent toward the army. Their lives split with almost no warning. One boy is shaped into a soldier, the other into a servant of God. Years pass before they see each other again. Martin returns to Hall on a short leave, scarred, exhausted, and now a captain in the Imperial Army. Georg is no longer the boy beside him at the scaffold. He is Prior Georg, head of the monastery, dressed in authority and watched by men who answer to the archbishop. Their reunion is warm at first. They trade smiles, share food, and reach for the old friendship as if nothing has changed. Then Martin notices a young woman being insulted in the market. Her name is Anna. She is the daughter of Hall's executioner, which makes her an untouchable in the eyes of the town. People will buy her remedies when their children are sick, but they will not touch her hand. A butcher calls her a witch. Merchants refuse her business. Everyone accepts her father's labor when a sentence must be carried out. Everyone pretends his family is contaminated afterward. Martin does not pretend. Seeing Anna being shoved and pushed around, he stepped in to help her out. It is a small act, but in Hall, even a small act of respect carries a price.
You mustn't touch me! Don't you know who I am?
I know who you are. I don't care.
Witch's art.
Witch's art, indeed.
Anna is sharp, private, and far more educated about healing than the men who sneer at her. Her mother taught her herbs, bandages, and the ordinary science of keeping wounded people alive. When Anna told Martin to leave once again, he revealed the wound on his shoulder. She examines him, laughs off his fear of a so-called devil's mark, and treats him with the practical patience no one else offers. Their connection grows in glances, arguments, and stolen time. It does not feel like a grand courtly romance. It feels more dangerous than that. Two people discovering that they can be honest together. Martin has spent his life taking orders, fighting wars, and surviving other men's ambitions. Anna has spent hers being treated as if her father's profession stained her blood. With each other, both get to be more than the name society has assigned them. But Martin must return to war. Before he leaves, he promises Anna that he will come back. The next battlefield strips every pretty word from that promise. Imperial forces are crushed.
The Emperor's troops have been annihilated.
And Martin?
I don't know.
Martin finds a wounded comrade begging not to be left crippled and helpless in the mud. The man asks Martin for mercy, and the scene forces Martin to confront the question that will define his life. When does killing become cruelty, and when is it the only mercy a brutal world permits? Martin survives and makes it back to Hall. Anna has given birth to their son, Jakob. Her father, the old executioner, has died. That should free them to build a life, but it does the opposite. Anna's father had been promised a successor, Fabio, his bitter assistant. Fabio sees Anna as property that should have passed to him with the job.
You're having her as long as I live.
Half-blind. Do you think you'll even hit the mark tomorrow?
But Anna's father was unwilling to let his daughter be given away like an object. He wants the executioner's position, and he wants Martin gone. Fabio found Anna and made it clear that he was determined to have her. Looking at Anna and the child, overcome with emotion, he lunged at her. Right at that moment, Martin appeared in the nick of time. Startled by the man who had suddenly appeared, Fabio panicked and fled. Looking at the woman he loved and the child, Martin felt his heart, long unsettled by the war, finally find peace. Martin asks Georg to marry him and Anna and to baptize Jakob. Georg knows exactly what that marriage would mean. In Hall, the executioner's household lives outside respectable society. If Martin marries Anna, the church and the town will mark him as one of the dishonorable. His military career will be over. Georg warns him plainly. At best, Martin will inherit the executioner's work. Martin listens, then asks the question Georg cannot answer. Is a soldier really more honorable than an executioner? Georg cannot perform the marriage. He is not trying to be cruel. He is trying to keep Martin inside the world he understands. But his refusal still abandons his friend at the moment it matters. Martin and Anna turn instead to an Anabaptist preacher, a religious dissenter who believes faith cannot be forced through the machinery of the established church. He marries them and baptizes Jakob. The wedding makes Martin a husband, a father, and an outcast all at once. With no respectable trade open to him, he takes the only work Hall will allow. He becomes the new executioner. The city council does not care whether Martin has a conscience. It cares whether he can swing a sword cleanly in public. Fabio teaches him the cold mechanics of the trade. One stroke in exactly the right place. Miss, and the crowd that demanded the execution may tear the executioner apart.
Practice on you.
Martin's first job is a man dragged from prison, shoved onto his knees, and handed over after a ritual of prayer. Martin raises the sword. The blow is quick. The crowd cheers. That applause is the sound of a door closing behind him. The town allows him the prisoner's belongings, then uses the custom to remind him he will never again belong anywhere else.
Well, at the monastery, the monks would have called this the devil's work.
Devil's work? I have never found a devil in there. Only the heart, lungs, bones.
Fear, courage.
You speak of the soul, Martin, and that is invisible. It is nowhere or everywhere. God alone knows that.
The contrast with Fabio becomes unbearable. Fabio treats the job as permission. Permission to own Anna, humiliate prisoners, and make the crowd love him for being cruel on its behalf. Martin treats it as a burden. That does not make him innocent, and the film is too honest to say that it does. His sword still falls, but each time it does, a piece of the man who once believed a uniform could make violence honorable comes loose. Anna understands this before Martin can. She knows that the town's disgust is selective. Its leaders call her father unclean, then send for him whenever they need death performed with ceremony. They will call Martin dishonorable, then demand that he turn their cruelty into an official act. The executioner is not outside Hall's moral order. He is the hidden instrument that lets everyone else imagine they are. They aren't. From then on, Martin is needed by everyone and welcomed by no one. A nobleman is happy to invite him to drink after watching an execution, yet reminds him that he remains dishonorable. Anna and Martin try to make a home for Jakob. Martin holds his son and says he never wants the boy to inherit the sword. Anna continues healing the sick. Their tenderness becomes the film's quiet rebellion against the world outside their door. Meanwhile, Hall is becoming a battlefield without armies. The archbishop arrives to inspect Georg's monastery. He hears rumors of Anabaptists gathering near the lake, preaching that God is not trapped inside gold, rituals, or the expensive demands of the clergy. To Georg, they are troublesome dissenters who need guidance. To the archbishop, they are an infection. The difference between those two views will cost lives. The archbishop also brings a holy relic into the center of town, a jeweled object treated as proof of sacred authority. Its value is spiritual, political, and very practical. Whoever controls the relic controls the fear around it.
To gain God's grace, there is no need to grovel before the church or its ornaments of gold. For the Lord God is everywhere.
This heretic should burn on the spot. Father Prior.
Behind the monastery walls, Georg is already under pressure. The archbishop praises his administration, then warns him that mercy looks dangerously close to weakness.
Do you know, for a moment I was beginning to question your sanity, Prior Georg.
These people are heretics! The Church cannot and will not support such dissent.
That night, however, the sacred relic was stolen by a woman from town who was acting strangely. She placed it on Fabio. Fabio stared at the relic before him in horror, knowing that stealing such an artifact was a grave crime. In that moment, a grand and greedy scheme began to take shape in his mind. Fabio understands that fear can be useful. Working with men inside the monastery, he steals the relic and helps build a lie around it. A witness claims to have seen a monk.
I saw the man that did this. It was a monk.
A monk?
A monk in a grey habit.
Soon the accusation shifts exactly where the powerful want it to go, to the Anabaptist preacher who married Martin and Anna. The preacher has criticized the church in public. That makes him a perfect suspect. In Hall, the theft does not need to be solved. It needs to be useful.
Fabio's lying.
I hope so. But if he is guilty, it is known that you were married by this heretic.
But you sent me to him.
I had no choice.
Why do you call him a heretic? He's a truly humble, God-fearing and pious man.
Martin, these people, these Anabaptists, have strayed outside the limits of the one true holy church.
Georg knows the case is rotten. Martin knows it too. Yet the preacher is arrested, questioned, and tortured for a confession he cannot give. Under pain, he still says he believes in God, but not in a church corrupted by wealth and spectacle. The officials hear only defiance. The court calls it heresy. The archbishop calls it possession.
If you confess to this act and name your fellow brothers, the court will show mercy. That is in accordance with the intentions of the church, is it not, Prior?
Yes, Your Honor.
So speak, and you will be spared much pain. Torture will bring the truth to light. You may do your work. Executioner?
Martin, forced to inspect the man's wounds as executioner, sees no sign of the devil. Only a human body destroyed so powerful men can pretend their accusation has become truth.
If you have to kill me, do it. Otherwise, they'll kill you and all your family.
Martin confronts Georg. Look at me, he says in everything but the exact words. Tell me you believe this man stole the relic. Georg cannot do it. But he also cannot stop the judgment. He has spent his life learning that obedience is virtue. Now, obedience is asking him to hand a decent man to the sword. The court initially sentenced the prisoner to be burned at the stake, but the gathered crowd protested fiercely. Unable to prove that the prisoner was in league with the devil, the officials commuted the sentence to beheading, a decision they touted as an act of mercy. Martin walks the preacher to the scaffold. The prisoner understands the trap better than anyone. If Martin refuses, Anna and Jakob will pay for it. So Martin does the only kindness left to him. He promises the man he will not suffer. At the edge of the square where Georg stood watching, Martin, with his own hands, beheaded a dear friend and benefactor of his family. Afterward, Georg has no clean way back to himself. The archbishop sees only failure. Anabaptists answer the violence by attacking symbols of the church. The response is immediate. Imperial notices promise rewards for naming Anabaptists and penalties for sheltering them. Homes are searched. Books are seized. Faith becomes a bounty system. Every neighbor suddenly has a reason to suspect another, and fear always finds new targets. Hall's council needs money after losing income from its salt works. The men begin looking for wealthy people they can label enemies. A bookseller becomes a heretic. The Inquisitor arrives from the Emperor, and any remaining pretense of justice disappears. He does not need proof. He needs confessions, names, and terror dramatic enough to reassure distant rulers that Hall is under control. Then their attention turns to Margaretha von Fry, a wealthy, defiant woman with a servant accused of knowing Anabaptists. Margaretha is not quiet enough to survive their courtroom. She mocks the officials, exposes their hypocrisy, and even throws their favorite weapon back at them, accusing the clergy of carrying the devil's mark themselves. Margaretha is dragged away to be examined as a witch. Later, the Inquisitor casually says she can no longer speak or humiliate anyone. The town understands what that means. No one says her name again. Georg finally sees the machine for what it is. It does not defend God. It feeds on the people who are least able to fight it. But realization is not courage. He is still terrified of the Archbishop, still compromised by every order he is allowed to pass through his hands. Fabio makes his last move. He tells the Inquisitor that Martin and Anna sheltered the Anabaptist preacher, that the preacher baptized Jakob, and that Anna hid the stolen relic in her healing room. The lie is designed perfectly. Anna is already an untouchable. She knows medicine. She has a family outside the town's approved order. Calling her a witch requires no new evidence, only a new label. Martin tries to get Anna and Jakob out of Hall before the soldiers arrive. They barely have time to say goodbye. The raid crashes through their home. Anna is seized. Martin is taken by the Archbishop's men. Jakob escapes into the chaos, small enough to vanish but too young to be safe. Soldiers searched everywhere for Jakob, and the town was gripped by chaos and panic. They arrived at Lord Waldau's estate. The captain of the guard ordered the house to be cleared out, leaving Lord Waldau to helplessly watch his life's work destroyed in an instant. Jakob's small figure darted through the town before he ducked into a house. It was there that he encountered Georg, who took the boy back to his own home. For Martin, losing control is almost worse than the chains. He has killed men for this system. He has obeyed it, feared it, and tried to protect his family inside it. Now, it has taken every person he loves and turned each one into leverage.
I could never serve this church. If you knew that you owed your life to me, I don't think you'd be so ungrateful. That's why you brought me here, Father.
During his imprisonment, the Archbishop came to visit Martin and placed the key in his hand.
God protect you, Martin.
In that moment, he was simply a father. Outside the cell, Georg makes his first real choice. He returned to the church, found Jakob, and told him that he was protected here. Then, his gaze fell behind the boy. Martin told Jakob to wait outside for him, then asked Georg about Anna's whereabouts. Georg breaks. Anna has been condemned. She will be burned at the stake whether she confesses or not. Martin attacks his old friend in fury, then sees the shame in Georg's face. Georg knew the Archbishop was Martin's father. He knew more than he ever said because he admired the man who raised him. The two boys who promised to be brothers are now standing in the ruins built by the father neither of them should have trusted. There is no time left for forgiveness. The square fills again. Anna is tied to the stake. The Inquisitor wants one more public lesson. The Archbishop wants the disorder erased, but Hall has changed. The people who once cheered a clean execution have watched their neighbors vanish, their homes searched, and their fears auctioned off for reward money. When Martin rides into the square, he is no longer the man who asks permission to do the right thing. He took the magistrate hostage, forcing him to order Anna's release. Watching Martin in the center of the square, the bishop ordered Anna to be freed once more. The onlookers stood in stunned disbelief. Orders are shouted, but authority has lost its spell. Martin tells Anna to take Jacob and ride far away. Most important, he tells her not to look back. Then he stays. The Archbishop stepped down from the viewing platform and came to Martin's side. Martin knew he would not make it out of here alive, nor would he ever return to his family. Without hesitation, he slit the magistrate's throat. Countless blades pierced his body as the Archbishop numbly turned and walked away. In his final moments, visions of those warm, peaceful days flashed before his eyes. Martin has spent the whole film learning that blood does not make a man a father, and a title does not make violence holy. The executioner's blade finally answers the men who taught him how to use it. Anna rides away with Jacob as Hall erupts behind her. The film does not give the family a neat, triumphant reunion. It gives them distance, motion, and a child repeating the instruction his father gave them: do not look back. It is a painful ending, but the only honest one. Martin cannot undo the lives he took. Georg cannot undo the judgments he permitted. What they can do is break the chain before Jacob inherits it. The headsman uses an invented conspiracy, but its setting is rooted in a real period of religious persecution in 16th century Tyrol, when Anabaptists were treated as criminals by Catholic Habsburg authorities. The film's sharpest idea is not that evil wears a villain's face. It is that evil can sound orderly, lawful, devout, even merciful, right up to the moment the sword comes down. Martin begins as the hand of that system. By the end, he understands that the hardest thing is not swinging the blade. It is deciding when to refuse it.